Let's explore the meaning of Jupiter in Pisces. First of all, we'll look at it in theory, and then we'll see what it actually looks like in charts for Leonardo da Vinci, Anais Nin, and Amber Heard. And let's begin by talking about what Jupiter and Pisces represent on their own. Then we'll combine them, and then we'll look at it in people's charts. So first of all, Jupiter, it's the planet of positivity. This is why it signifies increase, and this is why it's associated with growth, bigness, and that also is why it's associated with success or luck. Because it's the planet of increase, it's therefore the planet of creativity. And because it's the planet of creativity, it's the planet of reproduction. Hence, it's the planet of parenting. This is why Jupiter represents your parents, your family, and all of your parental figures, like your teachers, your guides, your coaches, your mentors, your priests, your gurus. Additionally, because Jupiter is got a lot of surplus as a result of all this production and creativity, it's also a generous, giving, charitable planet. Another sense of the concept positivity is optimism. Jupiter is in fact the planet of optimism. This is why it signifies things that we have faith in, things that we believe in. This is related to morals, which is what we believe is right and what we believe is wrong. And the bottom line of everything is that Jupiter is all about the philosophy and attitudes towards what's right and what's wrong. So in other words, it's the planet of religion and ethics. Now, Pisces. Pisces is a water sign with a dual element belonging to Jupiter. Hence, the root of what Pisces represents can be encapsulated in the phrase depth and fluidity. This is why Pisces is a very, very introspective sign. Depths means being concerned with what's deep, what's on the inside. So Pisces gives the capacity to look under the surface, to look within things. So it's very good for introspection, research, and education or learning in general. So it's an intellectually favorable sign. Pisces is also known as a very cautious sign. It's because it wants to take its time to research and learn and introspect and look underneath before it does anything. So it has a flavor to it of being cautious and prudent, and therefore it seems shy and quiet because it's not jumping to conclusions. It's waiting for the results of the research to come. And this in turn is why Pisces is characterized as an indecisive sign. Another aspect of the sense of depth is intuition. So depth means it's concerned with the things which are below the surface, and also it means that it's operating below the surface. So Pisces has an ability to come to an understanding or discover information or come to a conclusion in an invisible way. And this is what we call intuition. So Pisces is very good with intuition, and therefore it also has to do with dreams, imagination, and the abstraction of ideas into their essences. A final thing that's important about Pisces relating to depth and fluidity is fluidity and depth lends itself to fertility. So Pisces is a very abundance-oriented zodiac sign. So it increases fertility, it increases wealth, and it gives a sense of amplitude. Now that we know what Jupiter and Pisces signify on their own, let's put them together and see what we should interpret when Jupiter is in Pisces. So the first thing that will resonate when you put the Jupiter in Pisces is that Jupiter is the planet of wisdom. Pisces is a sign designed for introspection. That goes very well together. So the first interpretation that you should give for Jupiter in Pisces is, here's an intelligent person. The type of intelligence is, here's a person who learns well, and they learn a lot, and they devote a lot of time to considering things and studying things and hearing about things and researching things, reading about things. This is the primary thing about Jupiter in Pisces. This is the main effect. Another effect is that Jupiter is the planet of increase, and Pisces is a very wealthy or abundant sign. So another expectation when Jupiter is in Pisces is that the native is wealthy. Now also, on Jupiter's side, increase implies reproduction, the production of children, and on Pisces' side, the abundance implies fertility. So in the same breath, with increase and abundance, we're also talking about reproduction and fertility. So when Jupiter's in Pisces, expect the native to be fertile and creative. And by fertile, we mean their hormones work, right? So that also means that they're active sexually, reproductively, and desirable. And a third and the final very, very important thing about Jupiter in Pisces is that Jupiter is the planet of optimism, but Pisces is the sign of caution. So this is an unexpected little quirk. Optimism means you trust. But caution means you're reserving your trust. You're not really coming to a conclusion about whether something is trustable or not. So expect it to work like this. The native with Jupiter in Pisces is all accepting. They accept all kind of things, or they're open to many, many types of things. They're open to new ideas. They're open to new possibilities. They're not dogmatic, or they're not culturally formal. Yet, they don't accept any one of those things very fully, because the nature of Pisces is to be reserved and cautious and wait. Okay, so that is what Jupiter in Pisces looks like in theory. If we now look at some well-known people who have Jupiter in Pisces, this theory should become more crystal clear. Especially if we're careful to sort out what effects are from Jupiter in Pisces and what effects are from other things in these people's charts. So let's start with Leonardo da Vinci. Here's his chart. Why is it that Leonardo da Vinci is very much like a poster child or an archetypical Jupiter in Pisces? He's so smart, he's so creative, and he's so open to new ideas. So he's like the dictionary definition of Jupiter in Pisces. Why? Look at his chart. Jupiter in Pisces is his first lord. So Jupiter in Pisces has a huge effect in his chart. Furthermore, it's very, very close to the moon. Now, what does that mean? Number one, it's always a very good thing, almost always a very good thing to put Jupiter next to the moon. Number two, it means not only is Jupiter really affecting the ascendant, but Jupiter is also affecting the second ascendant, which is the moon. So Jupiter in Pisces is very, very influential in Leonardo da Vinci's case. It also is the only planet besides the moon in a Kendra, in the central houses. This is the third thing giving Jupiter in Pisces a huge impact in this chart. And fourth of all, it's a very, very good Jupiter in Pisces because it's in the very early degrees of Pisces, which is the Cancer Navamsha. The Cancer subsection of Pisces is in the first 3 degrees and 20 minutes. So Jupiter is exalted in its Navamsha. So this is why Leonardo da Vinci is the archetypical Jupiter in Pisces. Leonardo da Vinci by no means is the only philosopher with Jupiter in Pisces. In fact, many of the big name philosophers and scientists, inventive scientists or philosophical scientists, have Jupiter in Pisces. For example, Isaac Newton, Friedrich Nietzsche, Sigmund Freud, Pope Benedict the 16th, so a very religious or philosophical person, and Abraham Lincoln, who's a politician, but his whole platform was the philosophy about slavery. Now let's look at another chart. Anais Nin. She's not really quite in the category of the Da Vincis and the Isaac Newtons, but she is an advisor and a teacher and a writer, right? So she's kind of like a role model and a guide for society. But she has some interesting quirks to her, so let's see what's up with her chart. Her Jupiter in Pisces is the third lord, not the first. So that means there's going to be other things in her chart that are more primary than the Jupiter in Pisces. It is with the Sun, which is the 11th lord, and Venus, which is the 8th lord, in the 6th house. So her Jupiter in Pisces is with exalted Venus and the Sun in the 6th house as the 3rd lord, with the 11th lord and the 8th lord. 11th house plus 8th house equals sex, because the 11th house is the house for pleasure and the 8th house is the house for reproduction. When one of those planets is Venus exalted, you can be damn sure. And when Jupiter is the 3rd lord, which is the house for libido, then you can be damn sure that this Jupiter in Pisces is going to focus more on the fertility and reproduction synergy than it is going to focus on the wisdom and introspection. Although for sure, she's extremely introspective, almost molasses introspection. But she doesn't have that like philosopher overtone. It's a sexual overtone for Anais then with a philosopher undertone. Why is that? It's because the main thing in her chart, the main thing is Mars in Libra on the ascendant with Rahu. And secondarily, Jupiter's not the most prominent planet. The moon alone is, and the moon is very desirous. There are two other significant writers with Jupiter in Pisces that I want to mention. That's J.R.R. Tolkien and Edgar Allan Poe. These two also are not just writers, but they're professors and that type of person, linguists, etc. The other thing about Anais is she's the sexually outspoken person. So let's look at the third category of person, which is that sexual type of celebrity or people who are famous for their sexuality. So Jenna Jameson, the porn star, is Jupiter in Pisces. Lolo Ferrari, the woman with the biggest breasts in the universe, is probably the universe, is Jupiter in Pisces. Lady Gaga, very sexually outspoken. Tina Turner, also very sexually upfront. And Amber Heard, she's gorgeous and everything, and now obviously she's having this big issue with sexuality and relationships. So let's take a look at Amber Heard's chart. We do not know the birth time. We don't even have the slightest guess about the birth time. So what I'm doing here is making the moon the ascendant and not caring about any absolute houses from the ascendant. Nothing that I'll say about Amber Heard's chart is going to have to do with any of the houses from the ascendant. So certainly Amber Heard has this optimism versus caution thing, which is to be all accepting. She's even vocally bisexual, and she's very wants everything. The other thing that she definitely has is she's an actress, so she's quite creative. And she's beautiful, so she's quite fertile. When I think of Amber Heard, the first thing I think of is troubled. And troubled is not a trait of Jupiter in Pisces. So why does Amber Heard have Jupiter in Pisces then? Well, that troubled thing is coming from something else. So first of all, looking at her chart, she does have Jupiter in Pisces, but does it look like Anais Nin's or Da Vinci's? Not really. First of all, it's alone in Pisces. Second of all, it's not in the early degrees. It's actually at a degree of Pisces where the Scorpio Navamsha is. So it's going to focus Jupiter in Pisces more towards the sexuality. It is in the 6th house. Now, I said I wasn't going to talk about houses, but I'm talking about the 6th house from the moon, which is significant. Jupiter's house relationship to the moon is very significant. So that is also similar to Anais, who has in the 6th house from the ascendant. Now, the big thing in her chart is that she has the moon opposite to Mercury, which is aligned with the Rahu and Ketu aspect, the Rahu and Ketu axis. So it's well known in astrology that Mercury-Moon interactions are difficult and produce mental disorder, because the one, Mercury, is the rational functioning intellect, and the other, Moon, is the emotionally functioning mind. And when they look at each other under any less than ideal conditions, it produces irrationality. The real kicker for Amber Heard, however, is the sun. Her sun has a uniquely negative dignity. Not just because it's in Taurus, but because of the degree in Taurus that it's at, and therefore the subdivisions of Taurus, which it is exposed to as a result of that degree. It's rare to get a planet that undignified. And so that has to do with identity. And this sun is placed with Venus in the moon's 8th house. So it will have an impact on marriage and sexuality. So that is her situation. If you want to know your situation, like in other words, if you want to know all of your planets and all of your signs, and if you want to know everything else about the chart, like all the houses that your planets are in, all the aspects, all the yogas, then I advise you to order my birth chart overview report. And I will put a link in the description below. Thank you very much.